Hey, good morning, Pete, North Las Vegas. This thing was back ordered for a little while, about a week, so didn't take too long to get it. But anyway, we're on the home stretch here. I thought we'd get this adjustable gas block out and talk about it a little bit. I did talk about it in the first LR308 build series, and I was happy enough with it to where I decided to use it again. They're not cheap. They're a little pricey, but once you get a few things sorted out, they're very good. So anyway, here's our Wilson Combat barrel that the adjustable gas block will be going on. Anyway, let's get this thing out of the box. We'll see what they give you and talk about plunger sizes. Okay, so first thing we need to mention is there will not be any written instructions that come with this. You're going to have to go to the website to get his maintenance and installation instructions. And I don't know, I don't think it would hurt to put some instructions in with the box instead of having to go to the website, but hey, that's the new world we live in. Okay, so with the adjustable gas block, you get the correct serrated set screws that'll bite into the barrel a little bit and hopefully keep them from coming loose. It gives you a gas block roll pin, and if you want to cross drill and pin your block, he gives you the larger spring pin. One of the plungers is already installed, and he gives you two different sizes, and then you get the wrench also. So anyway, I'm going to measure both plungers, and because I forgot what it comes with, so we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so right now we're on setting 1, which is the least amount of gas. And it has 12 positions, so quite a bit of adjustability. Everything is toolless, and your basic maintenance is going to be toolless also. So I'll show you how to spin the adjusting knob off of here. And each gas setting has a detent position. So as I increase the gas setting, it's locking into a detent. Well, when you get to 12, if you try to go past 12, it goes into a locking detent. And then once you get to get it the rest of the way off, you have to push this ring up against the wave spring to take the tension off the locking detent. So all you do is push that in, and now we can spin the whole thing apart. And then that allows you to get to your plunger, get your plunger out. Now you can get inside the plunger cavity to clean that out. And here's your wave spring. And that's just how easy it is for adjustment and cleaning. Okay, so I'm going to measure the plunger that came pre-installed and the extra plunger that he gave me. Like I said earlier in the video, I forgot the sizes, so I'll remind myself by measuring. Okay, so the pre-installed plunger comes in at 0.918. Okay, so the additional plunger that came with the kit comes in at 0.887. And I don't remember that being what was supposed to be supplied with the kit, but that's the size that came with it this time. Okay, so in addition to the kit that I bought 2 spare plungers, one just as a spare, and on the first LR308 build I did, this was the plunger size that got me right in the middle of the adjustment range. So I ordered a 0.897 for the second build and a spare plunger. So I think between the 3 sizes I have here, and seeing how that this is the size that worked on the original build, I think we should be good. Okay, so in the last clip I kind of forgot to mention this 0.897 plunger that worked on my first build. That's what I ended up using for this Wilson Combat Tactical Hunter barrel. 18-inch. Now, I think the gas port is somewhere around 0.88, but I'm not positive about that. All right, well, let's get the gas block installed in this thing and and get it on the barrel. Okay, so before we actually install it, one last thing to talk about. The RifleSpeed uses a straight gas tube. Because of the plunger design, they had to make this a little bit taller. And you have to use a straight gas tube, no bends. And my particular rifle barrel and upper receiver combination, which is DPMS pattern, and this Wilson Combat 18-inch rifle length gas system uses the Armalite spec 15.4-inch long gas tube. Now, my first build, I managed to get a 15.5 in there with no interference problems with the bolt carrier group gas key. There was plenty of clearance. Everything worked out fine. This one here is the actual Armalite spec at 15.4. So where do you get one of these? You're going to have a hard time finding a straight gas tube at the Armalite specifications. What I had to do is go to White Oak Armament and custom order the straight gas tubes at the Armalite spec lengths. Okay, so now what we got to do is install it. Okay, so we got the gas tube installed. I did use the correct tools. I have a hollow pin starter and then an actual roll pin. You see the little tip on the end of there that locates into the end so you don't get all crazy with your roll pin and damage your rifle parts. And then also use some brake cleaner, inspected this, felt around inside, make sure there was no burrs or imperfections, cleaned out the bore for the gas port, got all that cleaned up. I mentioned this in another video prior to this one. The Wilson Combat barrel had shavings in the gas port, and the hole wasn't drilled clean either. There was a little bit of tailings or shavings that were still hanging onto the barrel. They were not loose, and I had to get that gas port all cleaned up. And this is the same barrel I used on my first build about 6-7 months ago, and it was the same way. So if you buy a Wilson Combat barrel, make very sure that that's cleaned out. You may also want to use a bore scope and see what's hanging onto the edge of the bore. You may have to scrub it out or use a cleaning rod to kind of work the tailings back and forth until you can get them off the barrel. Okay, so Wilson Combat barrels come pre-dimpled, and I just now put a very light coating of oil around the journal. Okay, so I'm going to put the rear set screw in first, just a little bit of Loctite, and then that will align with the dimple to make sure that the gas block is where it's supposed to be. And then I'll come in and put the forward one in. I've kind of become a fan of the orange stuff. This is the fuel and oil resistant type orange. It has the same holding power as red, except you do not need heat to get it back apart. I kind of hesitate to throw a number out here as far as how tight you should get these, but I generally go around 25 inch-pounds. Now, that's just what I do. You may want to go tighter, you may want to go looser, depending on what type of barrel you have or what you think needs to be done. Okay, so earlier in the video, I was talking about my first LR308 build and how I went 15.5 on the gas tube length. And that brought the end of the gas tube a little bit further into the BCG cam pin cut area. And I did not have any interference issues. And even though this is 15.4, not 15.5, you know, I double checked and ran the bolt carrier group back and forth in there just to make sure I wasn't feeling anything hitting, and everything went very, very smooth. You can tell also by when I was sliding the bolt carrier in, just by keeping my finger on the gas tube, I could kind of get a feeling as to how well lined up this was with the gas tube, and I could barely feel anything as the bolt carrier went into full battery. So the gas tube alignment, no interference issues with the gas tube length. So we're all good there. Okay, so we're getting ready to put the handguard on. And I thought we'd talk about a couple of things before we do. There's two DPMS pattern receivers. There's what's called a low pattern and a high pattern. New Frontier Armory makes theirs in low pattern, and it's the thickness in this area here that changes between a low and a high. The low pattern comes in at 0.150 inches, and the high pattern will be 0.210. So that's the difference. If you don't know what you have, you can put some calipers on there and measure that tang that sits above the charging handle. And so when you pick out your handguard, you have to know what type of receiver you have, because the high pattern sticks up higher. So if you go buy a low pattern handguard rail like this, you're going to have a mismatch up here. So this is a low pattern handguard for a low pattern DPMS upper receiver. The other thing we have to talk about is, because I use the RifleSpeed adjustable gas block, this area here sits a little bit higher. So you got to be a little bit careful about whose handguard you go with, because it may not fit over the gas block. Midwest Industries, both their low and high pattern, you won't have any interference problems with the RifleSpeed. Plenty of clearance. Two exceptions I can think of is Aero Precision. Now, the Aero Precision handguard rails are high pattern. They don't sell low pattern. But so if I was even using a high pattern DPMS pattern receiver, using their Atlas S1 or their R1 handguards, you may run into fitment issues using the RifleSpeed gas block. So something to watch out. And I'm just mentioning Aero Precision because that's one off the top of my head. There may be other handguard handrail manufacturers where, you know, this isn't going to fit. Okay, so another thing about the Midwest Industries handguard rail, besides being able to fit with the RifleSpeed, is on their anti-rotation, they use a block that fits in the back of the channel here for anti-rotation. A lot of handguard manufacturers will have tabs out here, and not all receivers are machined the same, whether it's AR-15, LR308, whatever you're trying to do. So I kind of like Midwest Industries anti-rotation setup, because you don't have to worry about whether these tabs are going to fit, and you won't have to do any trimming or filing or anything like that. So that's a plus to Midwest Industries, I think. Okay, so Midwest Industries recommends 40 inch-pounds on their pinch screws. And the barrel nut is 40 foot-pounds, so that's kind of easier for me to remember. 40 foot-pounds on the barrel nut and 40 inch-pounds on the handguard screws. Okay, so I'm going to go find a scope or a scope mount and bridge this to make sure that these rails are all lined up. You can see height-wise, they're like, it's perfect. But just to make sure that it's aligned from side to side before I tighten the pinch screws. So go find an optic, pop it on here real quick, and then we'll get these at 40 inch-pounds. Okay, handguards on, screws are torqued to 40 inch-pounds. When you guys weren't looking, I went ahead and put the A2 bird cage on. I'm using a locking nut instead of a crush washer, because there may come a time where I want to pull this completely off, and then rather than go through a bunch of crush washers, I can keep reusing this if I need to take this off, because this won't quite fit over the A2 bird cage. So in order to get this completely off, which I don't really have to for maintenance, it's not really necessary, but just gives me the option to not burn up a bunch of crush washers. And then also, when you guys weren't looking, I put my Magpul Pros on here, one of my favorite backup sights. I use this aim point just to get the rails aligned. This won't be the optic that's going to be on the rifle. I'm going to be putting an LPVO on here. But anyway, yeah, upper's done. Everything's looking good so far. Just got to get it out there and see what happens. Also, I have the lower complete. Now, the platform I'm posting this on, if I put these two halves together at this point in the video, they're going to get excited. And it's kind of funny because if this has already been completely assembled and this has already been completely assembled, I can break these apart for cleaning and maintenance and show that, and they're okay with that. But because I put a few widgets and wadgets on this upper receiver, if I now put these two halves together, I'll get a warning or a strike or have the video pulled down. So anyway, that's about as far as we can go with it right now. And I got a couple other things I'm going to do. So maybe in the last video, I'll show them put together. This is a Midwest Industries bipod mount. And Magpul makes a decent one, but the Magpul, the way they have to mount, you have to cross 2 slots on the Magpul. Now on the Magpul, they give you some adjustability, so you can run it this way or run it fully this way, and that'll allow you to make some adjustment. But one of the things I like about the Midwest Industries is that it'll fit in 1 slot, or if you want to, you can bridge slots. So that to me is a little bit of an advantage on the Midwest Industries design for your bipod mounts. All right, well, I think we've gone about as far as we can today. Pete, North Las Vegas, over and out.